Well, good morning. Thanks for braving the cold and coming out today. I tell you what, I was really excited to see some sunshine yesterday in the Sunshine State. How about that? After, at least where we live up a little bit north in Lakewood Ranch, we've had a cover of cloud for like 2 weeks. So what a thrill. And what a beautiful, brilliant welcome I have felt walking in here today. For those of you that I was able to touch base with so far, I feel the presence of this community, the presence of divine life, love, wisdom, joy, peace, all that you're about. So thank you for the invitation to celebrate Sunday. You know, today, I want to orient us in a direction that we don't often go to in unity. Those of you that unity is your primary path, you know, we like to feel good, don't we? We don't like the hard stuff. In fact, you know, we call it in unity, we call it spiritual bypass, when we just go from having the stuff going on in our lives to saying, all is well. It's all God, it's all good, you know. Just think positive, we're good. So, you know, for me, I like to dig in. I like to get to, like, what's going on and what am I going to do about it? And in Unity, we have an amazing set of tools for that. One of my greatest inquiries in ministry and in my life has been prayer. Like, what's it about? Why do I pray? How is it different and unique from the way I had learned to pray in my childhood religion, which was Catholicism, which was a lot of memorized words, right? So I have some thoughts about that today, but let me just set up some scenarios. You know, you've got your own scenarios. You've got your own circumstances, the things that you're working with in your life. Here's one. My teenage child is engaging in risky behaviors. I'm worried that he won't make it to adulthood. Has anyone ever been there along with me? Right? I want him to snap out of it and get his act together. Or I've been hospitalized with troubling symptoms. No doubt some of you are in that or have been there, right? The doctors so far haven't been able to diagnose or give me a prognosis or anything like that. I'm scared that I could become incapacitated or maybe even die. What do I want? I want to get well now. Yeah, you been there? My sister and I have not spoken for 2 years. My heart is aching about it, and I fear that I will lose her forever. I want to forgive, and I want to reconnect. Anybody feel the power of that? Put some other relationship in its place if it relates to you. My brother is dying. I have some regrets and I'm feeling so sad. I want him to live, darn it. I want him to get out of that bed and live. Or this one, I got fired from my job. I just bought a house and now I have no income coming in, just a little savings. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose it all, everything that I've worked so hard for. I want a new job now. You know, well, friends, when we humans are faced with troubles, we are standing on a ledge, are we not? A ledge of, you know, sometimes near despair, but always a ledge of possibility and potential. When unwanted things are happening, you know, we feel some feelings about that, no doubt, right? Feeling some terrified, feeling at least worried, feeling anxious, all the things that denote a sense of powerlessness. It's an important word. We feel powerless about something. And we've been conditioned in times where we feel powerless. We've been conditioned, have we not, to seek help elsewhere. You know, to call out for help. I mean, this is what prayer offers us, we have been taught. And where we end up going with this is sort of appealing to an external deity that maybe can do something about this for us. You know what I'm saying? How many of your prayers have been about that? The pleading for relief, pleading for a solution, pleading for an answer. I'm a minister who provokes. I hope, it's okay with you today. I'm considered a provocateur. My books have provoked, right? People have feelings about them. And here's the important part for me is that to provoke means to invite you to think again, to think deeper, to ask yourself, what do I really believe when I'm having struggles, when I'm having an unwanted situation? What do I really believe? And where is the power? Where is the power at that time? So we know from experience, don't we, that I could never predict whether my teenager's going to get his together or not, right? I can't predict that. I can't know from standing where I am in the moment of that unwanted condition. I cannot even know whether my health will improve, whether my condition will resolve and will require me maybe even to adjust to some physical limitations. I don't know that standing where I stand. I cannot force a connection with my sister. I can invite it, but I can't do anything about where my sister is at, right? And it's hard to imagine when I'm standing in that unwanted moment. It's hard to imagine how this could get better. And I cannot anticipate whether my brother will recover from the illness process or whether his body will die. And of course, ultimately, every one of us is subject to death of the physical. We cannot know from where we stand what the outcome will be. And yet, this is what causes us to feel powerless. Does this make sense to you? Yes. Somebody, please, somebody help, somebody know, universe, God, let me know. So conventional prayer, and how many of us were raised in conventional religions that have taught us that we give our cares over to God, to a deity. And we've been conditioned to regard God as an all-powerful being, a sentient being that has the power to fulfill our desired outcome. And so much of prayer becomes about, trying to get God's attention, trying to insist that, demand from God to act on our behalf. And the best prayer is this one, right? When I'm having a dispute with a neighbor, well, fix them, God. Fix my neighbor. Make my neighbor behave better. I've prayed that prayer a number of times. So conventional prayer presumes human weakness. Do you get that as I speak about it, right? And divine omnipotence, right? The all-powerfulness of God. Humans are weak. God is powerful. This is the classic, traditional way of thinking about God, about ourselves, and about prayer. And of course, if you've been a part of a unity community, that unity prayer is not conventional prayer. It can get mixed up because, we tend to have default ways of praying based on what we're familiar with. But the prime principle taught in unity is what your vision, oneness, wholeness, oneness. That's the prime teaching of unity. There's only one power. Now, I hope maybe you can hear that in a way this morning that maybe you haven't before. It's easy to gloss over that. There's only one power. That power is God. And so, okay, God has all the power. One power. Where are you? Where am I in relationship to that one? See, to me, when I started to really grapple with what that is, it changed the way I prayed, the way I thought about God and myself. One power. There's only one power, spiritual power. And that power is within. It's not a person within. I used to laughingly, in my first book, How to Pray Without Talking to God, I talked about my evolution of understanding of God and self. And at one point, I was learning at a yoga ashram where I lived as a young adult, was the guru is within. When I got to unity, it's very familiar. God is within. So my imagination for that was the incredible shrinking God. God is in here somewhere, but still separate. You know what I'm saying? That it wasn't what I wanted to believe, but it's sort of the conceptualization I had, because I can't be that. I can't be God. So that feeling, God was still something different and unique besides me. Well, the more I study and learn and sit in silence, the more oneness occurs to me, and the more I begin to experience the resounding idea, the idea that's hard to capture with a human brain. All that God is, I am. In truth. And in a moment of pure spiritual awareness. Are you with me? Yeah. So there's no calling out in prayer. There's only diving in. Now, I didn't teach this. This isn't my new, fresh idea. This is truth. Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, said it this way: prayers aren't sent out at all. She says, sometimes that's our trouble. Where would we send our prayers? We should direct them to our minds and hearts and affairs. My best kind of prayer is the spiritual Linda talking to the human Linda, right? It's that aspect of me that is in a state of oneness or unified mind, talking to my human self, talking myself off the ledge, so to speak, right? Speaking truth. So when I feel powerless, the job then is to pray for the purpose of uncovering that inner power and discovering that it's not out there and something that's going to happen to me. So when I pray about my teenager, I can recognize that the nature of the divine is infinite wisdom. And gosh, I could use a dose of that when I'm worried about my kid, right? I could use some wisdom to know, like, when to speak up and when to shut up, because that was an issue for me when my kid was a teenager. Wisdom, the aha or uh-oh kind of capacity, right? And so I could use some of that. And so my prayer is about accessing infinite wisdom. And not only that, but now I'm thinking about my son, and I have the chance to know, as I was so fortunate to have been studying Unity when my kids were teens, right? And to say, that same wisdom that I can find in here is the wisdom that's internal, innate in my son. How about if I focus on him being wise, knowing wisdom, and drawing from it for his decisions? Now, I'm talking because this was my experience, right? And my husband helped me to see the truth about him, because all I could see was he was lying and he was cheating, and I knew he was doing drugs because his eyes looked that way, right? I knew he was in trouble, and it was so hard to see anything but that, because what I was encountering was all of his humanness right there in front of me, right? And it scared me. I was so terrified for his life. And until I can step away from that and shift my consciousness to my spiritual capacity for wisdom, I can't be of any use to him. How am I helping him with those thoughts of mine? And so for me, that prayer was about accessing and knowing my innate infinity of wisdom, so I could trust my intuition, so that I could look not from a place of fear and anxiety, but from a place of pure knowledge of truth, right? From powerfulness rather than powerlessness, I can know something about him, that if I would hold my thoughts there, if every time I started to feel scared, I would envision my son like shrouded in light, just a light body, and I would see divine wisdom. I would just see him alight with that. I would see him glowing like he glowed when he was a little baby, just pure joy of living, right? I had to do that for a while. That didn't happen overnight, that shift. But to see my son today, who's a daddy, a husband and a daddy with pure joy of life again in his countenance, he came back to himself. I think I helped that because I had to stay on the side of the knowledge of what he truly is. That's prayer. That's a little different from just, God, fix this kid, right? It's so different, but it involves, don't you see, it involves all of what I am, because prayer is not out there. Prayer is like what's transforming in me that I can bring to this situation in my life, such that I can be a presence, that I can be a light, that I can help to bring about the very improvement that I have held in mind. So we're never powerless. The power is within our own transforming thoughts. When I pray about my own health concerns, I can recognize that divine is infinite life, and that when I've studied this idea of oneness, of all that God is, I realize that life is an eternal, ever-flowing reality. It's independent from my physical condition, and that's the key for me when I'm suffering in my physical body, is to know that there's a counterpart of what I am, the spiritual body of me, that is never harmed by my life circumstances, my human circumstances, but that is always ever-flowing wholeness itself. And how does that help me? Well, I can tune into that and say, that life is brimming and flowing in every cell of my body right now. No matter what body part seems to be ailing, I have the fullness of this life flowing right now. Let me tune into that. Let me amplify that so that I help myself. And what happens when I do that is all the feel-good chemicals in my body that heal the physical all proliferate at that time. Does this make sense? And it's so beautiful to know I'm not helpless laying in the bed, sniffling, sneezing, shivering with a fever. I'm not helpless at all. I have the power of mind and the power of that focus, right? So I can speak about each one of these things that we might pray about. And I've had experience, because all those scenarios I mentioned were mine. They were things I've dealt with in my own life experience, right? So, instead of prayer being talking to God and asking a deity to come and do things, shift things, the power is ours to shift our awareness and therefore our capacity to act. This is the heart of Unity's affirmative prayer. I'm not affirming an outcome when I pray. I'm affirming my capacity. You hear that? I'm not affirming an outcome. I'm affirming my spiritual capacity to meet the need of this moment. And therefore, we are never powerless. Isn't that good news? To me, that is really good news. So I want to tell you what my analogy for affirmative prayer is this. So Giles, my husband Giles, and I, you'll meet him at the sales table if you stop by to say hello after the service. Giles and I lived in San Antonio, Texas. I was the minister there for 14 years. One of the things that I noticed immediately about Texas was the, okay. It's saying, listen up. This is important. This is really important. One of talking about, it's the coolest thing. So we're from Pennsylvania, where when you got on the turnpike, if you needed to get somewhere on the other side of the road and you missed your exit, you're in some big trouble. You got to go 15 miles out of your way before you can find an exit to turn around and get back. You know what I'm talking about, right? In Texas, especially right there in San Antonio, oh, I need to get to that store on that side of the highway. It's the easiest thing. Instead of getting off somewhere, you get over into the inside lane, and at the next intersection, you just turn around. You just turn around, and you're on an access road, and there it is, just where you wanted to be. You know, this was the coolest thing to me. And in fact, you know, I used to laugh and say, okay, so when I'm not where I want to be, I don't have to yell at my car. You took me to the wrong place. You're not doing your job. You know, no. I just turn around. It's like, how simple could that be, right? So it's like, for me, I call it the dance. It's the Texas turnaround. It's a Texas turnaround. That's my analogy for prayer. It's the great Texas turnaround. I don't like my stinking thinking. Turn around. I turn around. I see myself as only human. I feel all the weakness and powerlessness of this situation, and it's just miserable, and I need help. God, help me. No. Turn around. Turn around and encounter my spiritual self. So, to me, affirmative prayer at its best is the human me meeting up with the spiritual me. My physical having an encounter with my spiritual. And do you know this? You do know this. The spiritual's pretty quiet. You know, the human can be pretty squawky. My human, snarky, squawky, any word you want to put there. I can be very loud and all over and very upset, right? My human. My spiritual is the Buddha, right? The Buddha. My spiritual is just that silence underneath all that human catastrophe. And when I am on the ledge, metaphorically speaking, hopefully, I can access that silence. That place where all my spiritual capacities are already there, because otherwise, why do we claim oneness? Right? That one power, that oneness, everything that I could ever need is right there in that. I don't need to go in search of it. I don't need to qualify for it. I just need to access it. Let me know wisdom now. What gets me there? Practice, right? Spiritual practice is what gets me there. So think about this. Think about the Texas turnaround as your way to say to yourself, when you're hearing your human snark, to just say, you know what? I could do a Texas turnaround right now. All right? I could just shift my attention, shift my awareness, and find my able. What am I able to bring forth right now? It's not magic, and it's not depending upon a capricious God, right? There's no deity saying, well, maybe I'll let you get better. Nothing like that. There is no such deity. Do you agree? That can't be the nature of God. So prayer at its best is me finding the power within me to turn around my thinking, which leads to me turning around my behavior. Because as I shift my own thinking, I can see, what else could I do? What could I say different? When I'm having a dispute with my neighbor over our fence, right? It's easy to have all kinds of thoughts about that. Thoughts about my neighbor, right? But when I get it, that the power is within me, what do I most want? I want a harmonious solution for us. So let me embody the power of harmony. Let me find harmony in my own thoughts. Let me be responsible for the way I'm thinking, so that when I next encounter my neighbor, I have a clear heart, open heart. I have an open heart. I'm not saying all those things about my neighbor like I had been. I have shifted. I've done a Texas turnaround, and I see clearly the way. And do you see how this enables me then to be the light in that situation, to help move it forward? You have all of that capacity within you. And I'm hoping right now that you're paying attention to your own memories of when you have done just that. And to see that that's how simple it can be. So let's meditate upon this. I'd like to engage in the movement of unity prayer with you for whatever's going on in your life right now. So join with me in sitting in a state of openness, open-heartedness, open-mindedness, closing your eyes or at least lowering your gaze. And just for an experiment, hold your hands open on your lap, the palms turned up, and just raise your arms from your lap, hold them out in front of you if you can, and just relax as you close your eyes and breathe. Let your exhalations go right into your fingertips. And notice the sensations that begin to build in your hands, the flow of divine life, of vitality itself. Turn your palms toward each other and just move them close to each other, about an inch apart without touching. And as you hold there and relax, notice the pull, the vibration. All vitality is what you are. All flowing life. Then just slowly lower your hands to your lap. Breathe easily. That life force that we felt is invisible, yet perceptible. Just like the power that is within you. Just like your spiritual nature. So here, with this open heart and mind, I recognize infinity. That spaciousness that I felt between my hands is the spaciousness of the universe. The field of all that is and all that is possible. G-O-D. Accessible just like my next breath. Effortless. Inclusive. Unrelated to my limited beliefs and regardless of my circumstances, I recognize infinity. In the field of unity, I now integrate I am a divine human. That infinity, that divinity is part and parcel of my nature. I'm fully human, yes, and I'm fully divine, yes. I am a divine human. Just send that as a code of authority into your brain, into your nerves, into the muscles and bones of your body. I am a divine human. I look not to my circumstances because they are changeable, but to the changeless truth of this idea, I am a divine human. Let me contemplate right this moment, like what's going on with me and what power can I choose to bring forth from within me? Maybe wholeness, beauty, grace, serenity, enthusiasm, compassion, audacity, courage. What divine quality do I want to associate with my humanity right now? As I take in that idea of my capacity, what can I realize with that? How will this make a difference in what I'm praying about, what's important to me right now? How do I take that on as my true nature that I'm going to actually bring to life into these circumstances? How am I going to meet the demand of the next moments? What am I going to think differently about this situation? Because I know that I am this power, that this is my true nature. What am I going to do differently? These are the questions of realization. How am I going to make this principle real now in this circumstance? And so even as we tell ourselves this, take a breath and feel in your body the wellspring of appreciation. I mean, appreciation is an increase in value. Notice, is there value in what you just stepped through? Is there some new awareness that is beginning to dawn? Notice the celebration, every cell in the body saying, thank you for this good news, this great uplift. Because now I can embody this life, this love, this peace, this joy, this courage. If you're in a position to do so, let me invite you to stand right now, right where you are, to stand and to breathe in like a full body breath, right from all the way, like opening up the whole torso, opening your arms. Just don't slap your neighbor. Just open your arms, breathe in and breathe out a deep exhale. And one more time, in. Oh, feel it. Feel every cell alive. And exhaling, lower your arms. Feel appreciation blessing your body right now. Wholeness, love, and life. and say, amen, 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 amen. And so it is. And so it is, friends. Thank you so very much for your beautiful attention.